Fun fact, I've never owned a gun. Stu's biggest failure was continuously trying to say I owned a firearm when I didn't. He even planted one at my house, and I was too afraid to pick it up. Twitchy hands. Uh, Terrified of owning a gun because I was afraid I'd hurt other people. My theory about that is a sign as I didn't trust myself, but also I believe it was the repressed shadow. Now, Carl Jung talks about good people turn bad because they repress their shadow, essentially. Um, but is that an entirely bad thing? Let's talk about it. You have somebody that is so fixated on being a good person they decide to cut out a bunch of traits that they decide are not desirable. That they have decided, I don't need these things. I don't need to be a garbage person. And then somebody comes along, this church, and then they subject you to a bunch of psychological torture. They force you to violate every value you have. They force you to do a bunch of things you would never do otherwise. And you are making the conscious decision to be a good person. This is a conscious thing. You are repressing the shadow. And then they tell you your shadow self is a superior self, and that's the actual God, and the only thing that God does is go around hurting people. Because suffering's good for you. And that's the logic. It's how dumbasses think. But let's read what Jung had to say, and then I'm going to offer a very counterintuitive opinion. Carl Jung believed that good people turn bad when they repress their shadow, the hidden dark side of their personality, due to an over-identification with purification. By trying too hard to be virtuous, they subconsciously project their latent evil onto others, leading a destructive, uncontrollable behavior. The true goodness requires integrating the shadow. I kind of froze there because my brain didn't comprehend a bit of that. The shadow and projection. Jung postulated, I have no idea what that word is, that the darker aspects of human nature, such as cruelty and selfishness, do not vanish when ignored. They become more powerful. When individuals repress these parts, they tend to project them onto others, viewing them as evil, problematic, thus justifying their own aggressive actions. The peril of excessive perfection. When one tries to desperately to be good and wonderful and perfect, then all the more the shadow develops a definite will to be black and evil and destructive. Jung wrote that this pressure causes suppressed, unintegrated parts of the personality to act out, causing terrible, destructive things. Good can mean unconscious. Jung argued that true moral goodness is not about pretending evil doesn't exist within oneself. Instead, the truly good person is one who's conscious of their capacity for evil but chooses to act differently. I would argue I had that at one point. I would. The collective consequences. When individuals refuse to look at their own darkness, it can lead to a collective societal evil as they become convinced of their own righteousness while attacking others. So, let's break this down. You have a person who consciously was choosing to be a good person, who was consciously choosing to help others, who was consciously choosing to do the right thing, and then you have a bastard from this church come along and just go, let's beat them until they turn into one of us. So, first of all, you are imposing your own psychological neuroses onto somebody, implying that their way of life doesn't work. You are going, we know the right way. This is the only way to be. This is the only way to act. This is the only way to behave. This is the only thing that works. Okay. There's a bunch of things wrong with that. By nature. Okay. But we do know there is a definitive right and wrong. Okay. As much as people like to pretend there's not. Only in religion does right and wrong become a confusing tetrahedron of nonsense where somebody's like, well, this, that, this. No. Right and wrong exist. There is a right way to do things, and there is a stupid way to do things. I used to firmly believe there were no stupid people, there were no evil people, there were just dumb motherfuckers. Uh, that was something I would say. There are no evil people, they're just stupid motherfuckers. They're just uneducated guys that make bad decisions. There are evil people. There are. They exist. But here's the thing. When somebody has that darkness in them, why on earth would you bring it out? I was thinking about it. I feel different. I don't know if you can say freed, but I feel like I could handle owning a gun. I feel like there are things that I am now capable of that I simply wasn't capable when I was focusing on being a good person. And I remember Anal Eating Mummy God literally spoke to me and told me, because we talked about being under constant surveillance by their stupid fucking van, and I talked about the observation principle changing outcomes. Just by looking at something in quantum mechanics, you're changing its outcome just by observing it. And I began explaining the anxiety of having somebody watch you and how it causes people anxiety, to which he's like, no, it doesn't, which is a lie. Being under constant surveillance causes people to act crazy. It is a literal fact. It is a form of psychological torture. It causes constant pressure and stress. It explains why I was never able to get out of the survival brain the entire time these people were observing me with their fucking van down here. It explains why I was trapped in fear for an extended period. It explains potentially why it's only just recently that I managed to find a way to break through that fear by taking a cold bath. But on top of all those things, Anal Eating Mummy God talked about the thing Blondie doesn't understand is exactly why when you come across what he called the priest class, a moral human being, you don't do what he was planning on doing to me. Which I assume 90% of this shit, from Mary Bowberry to what other wife they were gonna give me, probably not, that even Anal Eating Mummy God, while he was observing Blondie, began to question what exactly Blondie was doing. But I think he knew exactly what he was doing. You see, I will openly admit I didn't know anything about Carl Jung. I knew Sigmund Freud for the longest time. And there's a lot of good points Sigmund Freud makes that are kind of common sense points. And those are his only good points. The rest of his shit's kind of gaga. But this thing about you take a good person and you drag the evil out of them. The only person that sounds like, and I remember Blondie being like, you could be like Batman, the guy that has to be hated, because he's gonna steal my glory and make me the bad guy, and then pretend to be the good guy. But I think I'm more like Two-Face. I think this arc, for me, I think everybody overlooked I don't believe anymore, because I now know that I have ADHD, that I am an antisocial personality disorder. I think I am just wandering chaos. I think that's why Anal Eating Mummy God called me Loki, the god of chaos. Because I'm chaotic. And I think that chaos comes off as Jack Sparrow-esque, the antisocial personality, because we somehow project that Jack Sparrow is chaotic, that the in all the movements are chaos. And I would argue even the Joker, I'm an agent of chaos. I don't think that's the truth with me. I don't think I'm some crazy, super manipulative, antisocial guy. I think I'm so good at problem solving, critical thinking and problem solving, that I come off as chaotic, because I make my decisions on the fly. I move through chaos. And even anal eating mummy god, like my problem with the church and everything is it's all control, and I hate stagnant waters. I hate stagnant waters. They're not fun. I like curves. I like curvy women. I don't like plain skinny women. I like my curves. I like my water to be wavy. I don't like the flat. And this came up when I was, and it's kind of the simple things in life. It's the little things that give somebody away. It's the subtleties. When before I became emotionally dysregulated, I was super analytical. I was hyper analytical of everybody I met. I was. Um, and I used to talk about when you pay close enough attention, it's the little things that gives a person away. It's the twitch, the movement, the weird things they say. And the wives told me Annalene Mummy God didn't like surprises. And what that told me is he didn't like chaos. Because I love surprises. I thought they were fun. I really did. But I also think about this scenario and how this entire scenario was a rehash of the Belly Girl. Every part of it. Every failure I came across. And I would argue the biggest failure is my failure to grow as a person, but let's talk about this. I was working at Papa John's, and then my brain was slowly degrading in heavy metals. There wasn't anything stimulating about my life. There wasn't an area to grow because I was busy working all the time. This is that shit where Blondie's like, slave mentality. You have to work when you're the working class. You don't have time to go on a Frederick Nietzsche bullshit adventure where you kill 6 kids and 7 women and rape babies and kill and do violate all your values because you have fuck tons of money to fuck around with. Okay. And everybody in your church is going to cover your ass when you're committing atrocities because they don't have values of any kind. Uh, and that is the thing. Working class people become stunted in these stages. And I guess I'm guilty of that. And I realize that this nightmare, the Belly Girl, Mary Bowberry, I don't know, the other wives, maybe Juliet Michelle, Randallin, whoever, whatever, I don't know. I can guess. I wrote their names down. Like, um, I failed to get every one of those women. Uh, I failed every quick time event in this, mostly due to recovering psychologically. Because when I was, it's funny that when you're not working, all you're doing is recovering psychologically and working through trauma and all this stuff that was all locked away in the back of your mind by some dickhead that learned how to hypnotize anybody they came across. And they decided they could fuck with your mind, and they decided this, and they decided. And what is my biggest peeve? People trying to control me and failing. Every time. And even with, let's say they did. Maybe all the hypnosis shit did kind of work because it did stop me. It did. But where did it lead? It led to a complete emotional development stunting, a complete non-exploratory explanation of individualization, and it stopped me from growing up. And I remembered mentioning, this is the stupid thing. This is the stupid thing. I spoke to this about anal eating mummy god. I said, the dark ones are trying to stop me from reaching my full potential. And he said back, like, basically, I don't understand what that means. I 100% believe it was my ADHD brain and its ability to mature. But I don't know what this is. And you might go, what do you mean you don't know? I don't know what this is. I've never been here before. I was watching a fat girl the other day. She was like, this is the fattest I've ever been. And I was like, well, let's hope so. But, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. I don't, in my brain right now, for whatever reason, one of the last things I was hypnotized to do was to never keep secrets. So I would just tell people whatever I was going to do when I was going to do it. Now I'm capable of keeping secrets. I kind of feel like Sonny from iRobot. Now I'm capable of doing things that were removed from me, which is what these people do. They just continuously remove this, because they're trying to control. But I'm a ball of roaming chaos. And that is what I believe I am. I don't have a plan. I don't want to say I'm an edgelord and I don't play by the rules. If the rules are there, I certainly do follow them, but I do not like it when people try to put their rules over me, especially if they're religious retards. And then they're like, oh, this crazy integrity when they mean obedience. Do what the church wants you to do, no matter what. It doesn't matter who you get killed. Trust in the crazy human trafficking pedophile ring. And yeah. Am I that thing? I might be that thing that Carl Jung talks about. The good guy that is finally turned evil. The only thing I fantasize and think about is murdering these people. That's a very disturbing thing for somebody with such a creative mind like mine. Obviously, you can't write these things down in a journal. The fact of the matter is, they did ruin my life. And then they didn't stop ruining my life, and then they just kept hurting me. And whether it was intentional or not, the road to hell is paved with with good intentions, as they say. I don't really believe in that because it's kind of a thing rich people say about socialism. This one's a tough one. It is. I hope this video has made as little sense to you as it is to me. I used to only focus on being happy. Now, this kind of makes me wonder that shit Blondie was like, oh, Mary's so happy and I want to marry her, blah, 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 blah. What if we just tortured her until she turned into a bad person? I wonder if Blondie could handle that. I wonder if he could just handle her just at his throat 24/7, threatening to kill him, freaking out, being weird. But I also think about the last cinema therapy video, which is, oh, the white girl's mentally stable, the white girl's more marketable, the white girl's white and she's a great white savior, and you're extremely mentally ill from what happened to you. So what's the plan? You're going to take a totally mentally stable person and be like, all this horrible shit happened to him, and you look at him, he's totally normal? Yeah, people are stupid enough to buy that. I never was, though. I've met people who were like, I went through a war and I have PTSD, and then they don't have any PTSD. So, it's a good thing we live in a stupid world, I guess, for these people. Maybe that's the point, though.